Welcome back, everybody. We are back in the pub, and at home you don't know, obviously, but it's been a little while since we filmed something here. It's been a little bit over a month, even though we've been posting episodes regularly. It's been quite a bit since we've gotten to do this, so this is kind of like a celebration for me and Alessandro to be back in the pub, obviously. We've seen the comments. There's been some comments on the past couple of videos, buddy. People were worried about you. They know you live down in Tampa. They're wondering if everything was okay after the hurricane, so I'll give you the floor here. You let everybody know how things are going.
Thanks, my friend, and thank you for everybody reaching out in the comments and checking on me and my family. Luckily, everything is good. We got through the storm with no damage and no issues whatsoever. Luckily, most of our friends and families are well. Some of them had like some damages to houses. Some others didn't, but luckily, everybody's in good health. So. All considered how things have gone for a lot of people, we are very lucky. So thank you again, for everybody reaching out and thinking about us.
Seriously, thank you everybody who reached out. We really do appreciate it. So we've had a little bit of a gap here where we haven't talked. We haven't had any time to record anything. So this is a very celebratory episode of the Beer Explorers. And we've been holding on to these beers for quite some time because there's been a gap in our filming here, even though we've been posting episodes along the way. We had a little bit of a backlog of stuff that we were able to post, thankfully. But to keep the beer brackets, the virtual beer brackets pub going in our absence. Now we're back and we've been holding on to these beers. And man, I'm so excited. I cannot wait. These are two beers that when I saw them, I was just like, I cannot wait to show you. I cannot wait to try them with you. It's just so much excitement all around. And I know you've been really excited about your two as well. So I will let you start, man. What are you opening your beer brackets with today?
Thank you, my friend. As always, you're always the gentleman and the scholar. This beer that I'm opening with, I've changed actually here recently in the past week, and I'll tell you why. There's two good reasons for which I changed. Let me get the glass here.
You always have good reasons, so I'm sure it's good.
So the beer that I am opening my beer brackets with is a beer from a Motorworks Brewing Company in Bradenton, Florida. It's called the beer is the V-Twin. They're a Vienna lager.
Ooh.
They're a Vienna lager. Now, I have not featured the Motorworks.
Bradenton. I stayed near Bradenton recently.
You did, my friend. You were in Bradenton Beach. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful area.
It is. It really is. And there's also a nice little story about the brews that we can get to in later. But let me come to the reasons why I picked this beer for opening the beer brackets, which I think is always the most fun thing. I have to mention that I recently celebrated a birthday. My in-laws were kind to pick for me some beers to as a gift. And one of the beers that they picked was, in fact, this one.
That's the best gift.
Exactly, that
is the best gift. Especially, my in-laws are good with that too. They know I really like beer. And I remember for Christmas last year, my father-in-law went to the LCBO and got me a bag of with 6 ABT 12s in it and just a whole bunch of Trappist beers. I was like, you know me so well. This is the best Christmas present to open up under the tree.
That's exactly right. That's what I said too, my friend, because there are 6 beers that somebody picked for me. So that's this way I get to experience, and it feels like a Christmas day. Because what am I going to try now?
Yeah.
And I've had beers from Motorworks Brewing before. I've never tried this specific one, their Vienna lager, so I was excited for that.
That's amazing. I love a Vienna lager.
Exactly. I decided to feature them in particular because Bradenton is one of the cities that also got hit pretty hard by the hurricane here recently. So I thought hey, let's show the support and let's make sure that we go visit there and try and support local breweries in general, but especially now after such hard times. So I thought that would be fitting to open the beer brackets here after this long, like you mentioned, absence that we've had here in the pub.
It's cool that we both have a connection to it as well, with me having stayed down there last time and really kind of close by in Anna Maria Island there. Spent some time in Bradenton Beach. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful island there. I mean, yeah. One perfect choice, man. Perfect. I can't wait to hear about that. I didn't even know there was a brewery there. If I knew there was one close by when I was there, I would have checked it out, but I had no idea. All right. I'm not sure which one I'm going to open. Actually, no, I am sure which one I'm going to open with. Okay, now I know. I took a trip down to Ontario about 2 months ago with my family to go down for one of my wife's cousins had a birthday party. So we did the road trip from Montreal, about 7-8 hours. And once we got there, of course, one of the things I had to do when we settled into our Airbnb, I had to go to the local store and just see, okay, what beer treats am I getting myself for tonight? Once we're back in the Airbnb, my daughter's put this bed and, just relaxing. It was a Saturday night. Okay, what am I getting myself for tonight? And I saw one beer on the shelf that I'd never seen before. And I was like, oh boy, Oh boy, we have featured this brewery a couple of times on the channel, buddy. In fact, they have one beer that sits on our perfect beer roundtable. And this is I wouldn't even call this a style of beer, but this is a beer characteristic that I have never seen before. So this is a beer from Scottish brewery Innis Gunn. This is their Tequila Cask aged blonde ale.
Ooh, wow.
Yes. Wow. Tequila Cask aged. So I have never had a beer aged in tequila cask before. I don't even know what that kind of flavor would lend to a beer. So I am extremely curious to try this. And what better place to try it than on the Beer Explorers on the Beer Bracket channel with you, buddy. So let's crack these beers open and let's get right into this.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. So good to be back in the pub.
So good. So good to be back. Everybody's safe and sound. Ooh. Oh my God. It says on the can with hints of lime and grapefruit. And there is like a strong grapefruit aroma coming out of the can. So a blonde ale aged in tequila cask. I'm so curious about this.
That sounds so interesting, my friend. I can't wait to hear the descriptors you come up with here.
Wow. Okay. So it's very light, kind of straw-colored beer.
Almost like a lager-like, or a pale ale, at least.
Yeah, it's coming in at 5.1% ABV. Okay. So compared to Innis Gunn's other beers, it's a little bit light. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, my friend. Cheers.
Let's take our first sips here, and then let's get right into these descriptors and see what we think. Ooh. Oh. Oh, wow.
You're having a beer moment, my friend. I want to hear all about it. Come on. I'll let you start. I feel like you have the more interesting of the two in terms of flavors.
How do they get these kind of flavors in this beer? It almost tastes like, it looks nothing like their original, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, but it has some similar characteristics to the original in the sense that there's kind of like a vanilla, like a very subtle, smooth vanilla flavor to it. I don't know if I get tequila necessarily, a little bit, but it's mostly, like it says, with hints of lime and grapefruit. I guess that's how you interpret the tequila flavors. But it really, like if you plant those seeds of lime and grapefruit, like that is what I'm tasting on this, along with like a little bit of that vanilla, but it's like hoppy and malty at the same time, but all perfectly balanced. This is like, there's so much depth of character to this beer. Every sip is a beer journey, man.
I like that.
Okay, I kind of get the tequila. Yeah, I can see it. That's so interesting. I love Innis Gunn, man. I know we've talked about them so much on the channel. I love what they do. I love how creative they are with their beers. And I love the flavors that they pull out of their beers with their barrel aging methods. And like, wow. Just wow. I need like a couple of minutes to process this. So buddy, tell me about yours.
I'll be happy to, my friend. From the first sip, from the aroma, really classic Vienna lager flavor. So you have that lightly toasted, slightly caramelized aroma, malt aroma, hints of hops, but not too much. It's leaning more towards the malt. Then you take this sip, and it's very nice because it's light. It comes in at a 4.9%, so it's not high. It's very drinkable, very nice level of carbonation, slightly roasty on the finish, which I like because it introduces almost like a little bit of bitterness that like cleanses the palate and makes you want to go back in the glass. So extremely well executed beer from Motorworks Brewing here. So I would highly recommend that if you ever are in the area. All of their other beers are also very good. It's a brewery that I've been meaning to try to get to here, but there's obviously always so many to choose. But I'm glad that we are featuring it now at this point. And speaking of which, as I was cruising on their website, I found some interesting information that now made me want to go visit the brewery because I've had many of their beers, but I haven't been to the brewery. Apparently, according to legend, which we all know is the most reliable source of information, they have
the most reliable. By far.
Exactly. They have the largest beer garden in Florida.
What? That's cool.
That sounds cool. And apparently
That's
there's this very old 100+ year oak tree in the middle of it. So just judging by the pictures, it looks like a pretty neat place to have a beer at. And not to mention that their brewery itself used to be an old car dealership from 1923. And that's also why I like the name Motorworks.
Sounds like a beautiful spot. You know, Florida's largest beer garden. That's always a good excuse to get out to a brewery and check it out, especially with the weather you guys get down there. And maybe one of my trips down there, we'll have to go check it out. Because I think if we come back and visit, I think we're definitely going to stay in Anna Maria Island again. I think we loved it there.
Yeah.
That was the perfect spot to stay.
So see, now my friend, you have another excuse to say, oh, let's go there because I know about a good brewery.
Absolutely. I've been trying to find some more information. You know, one thing, and this has nothing to do with the beer, but one critique that I would offer towards Innis Gunn, I think they need to add a little bit more information and lore about their beers, because it's very hard to get information about their beers. Like even a beer that sits on our Perfect Beer Roundtable, right, the Irish whiskey cask, it's impossible to find information on what type of whiskey barrels, what type of whiskey was held in these barrels, how long it was aged in these barrels for. Like all this information, you can find stuff about the original, like they have, the barrel and beer method that they use for the original, but for everything else, all their specialty beers, all their seasonals and all their one-offs, there's no information on their website. They don't make anything public, and maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there's just something to do with the production that they'd rather not elaborate. Maybe it changes all the time. Maybe they're using different barrels. Maybe I don't know. But if I could offer one suggestion, Innis Gunn, it's like, come on, give us some more juicy beer details.
I agree.
Let us in on the behind the scenes a little bit. Give us some more people want to know. Beer fans want to know. They want to know. Give us some information about these barrels. What type of tequila? It just says Mexican tequila. That's all it says.
Okay.
I didn't know there was any other kind of tequila, but
I didn't know either. But it's nice that they specify it, I guess.
Can you do? I'm assuming there's like American tequila distilleries. Would you call it a distillery?
I don't, and I might remember incorrectly here, so we might have to fact check this and we'll add here on the screen somewhere. But I do believe you're right, my friend, and to be called tequila, it has to specifically come from those regions within Mexico, I think.
Yeah,
it definitely has to be
Jalisco,
from the blue agave. That I know to be called tequila. But as far as the regional constraint, I'm almost positive.
This is so interesting, and I really find it interesting how those tequila characteristics are coming through as grapefruit on this beer. That's what's really fascinating to me, because I think they say the word grapefruit on the can, like I said, and that gets planted in your mind, and then you really smell grapefruit. It's almost like a suggestion. But if I sort of think about it a different way, I can see how that's like tequila. It's amazing. This beer is a work of art, much like many other Innis Gunn beers. I think they have... There's not the quality level, but I guess the amount that I like their beers fluctuates a little bit. Like the rum cask, I enjoy, but that's not my favorite of their beers. I think that's kind of like a middle of the road, kind of good, drinkable, interesting beer, but it's nothing too special. I find. I think we made actually a lost review of it one time.
That's right.
You remember that? We reviewed that one 3 years ago.
We did, my friend. I was thinking about it. I said, wait a minute, didn't we review that? Oh no, that's right.
We did, but it never got posted because my audio was completely lost.
It's part of the beer lore, my friend. The beer brackets lore.
It's part of the beer lore. Yeah.
Some of the lost volumes in the great fire of the beer library.
Exactly. All right, don't worry at home. This is our regular public service announcement. These episodes, these beers will be drank, so do not worry about that. But we don't want to, bore everybody with sitting here for half an hour drinking each of these beers. So what are we closing our beer brackets with? Let's find out. Dude, I'm excited about this one.
Are you? If you say you're excited, man, I can't wait. So should I start?
Yes. Yeah, please.
So I'm going to preface this with one thing. The beer itself, I have mentioned before on the channel. The episode has already been posted, but I really wanted to feature this in an episode to expand a little bit on it, because I think it's such a particular and unique beer. But I will also add a little twist. On top of the beer,
Oh, I like a beer twist.
exactly. On top of the beer that I've already presented, I'm also going to be using a special glass that, again, like I've received from siblings for my birthday here recently. That I think is very fitting and it's very nice with this particular beer, and you'll see why once I use it. So, but the beer,
Show me. What is it?
the beer that I'm featuring is the Theakston Old Peculier.
Yes.
Which I've had the pleasure to enjoy recently with you and Simon from Real Ale Craft Beer on the channel, and I absolutely loved it. So I thought, like, I loved it so much I need to feature it again.
That was a crazy beer moment. That was not planned at all. Where you and him were both drinking the same beer. We'd never met him before. We never talked to him before. We communicated by email to set up this call. We jump on the video, and the two of you chose the same beer somehow.
And what I am drinking, I've never tried it before, is the Theakston Old Peculier.
No, really?
Well, look at that. Fantastic. So we're both drinking more or less a keg version. Yeah, fantastic. That's great.
That's great.
God. You're going to love it.
Serendipity.
And Old Peculier out of all beers. It's not like you both chose Coors Light or something like that.
No, exactly. It's the beer connection, my friend, and it always works. But the glass that I'm going to feature, and it's difficult to see now in this light, but once I pour the beer in, it will be more clear. This glass is engraved with a map of the Lord of the Rings, which, I mean, everybody knows I'm a big fan of. With the Middle Earth.
People might not know, but you're like a huge Lord of the Rings fan, so that's amazing that you got that.
So yeah, that's awesome that they got this one here for me. So and you'll see now that when I get to pour the beer, it works better when it's a darker color beer because you can see the contrast. So I thought that's perfect. It will work. Yeah. I get to feature this new present that I got, and also to talk about this beer that I think it's delicious. And we'll also get into a little bit of the legend and lore that we might not have covered during the episode with Simon.
I remember your impressions about that one on the call with Simon, but I actually remember that you were like being very sort of like polite and letting Simon do a lot of the talking. And I think I'd like to hear your more in-depth description about your opinion on the beer here.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. This. But now it's your turn, my friend. And I am excited because I know that this beer in particular, you have been holding on for quite a while, haven't you?
This beer I have been holding on to in my beer fridge for 2.5 months now, waiting for this moment. And so in August, the beginning of August, we did a family trip down to Ireland. And when I was in Ireland, at one point, we were staying at an Airbnb in County Wicklow, which is kind of out in the beautiful Irish countryside, about an hour and a half south of Dublin. And so one night, I was in the common thread is always me just deciding to go off beer shopping when I'm traveling with my family. But at one night, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go explore a local bottle shop and see what I can find. And so I found this place called O'Connor's Next Door. And I think Next Door, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of like a chain of liquor stores down there. And this was O'Connor's Next Door. But it was in the town Wicklow proper that was maybe about a 25-minute drive from the Airbnb in the countryside they were staying in. So I drove down this little beautiful little picturesque Irish town in the countryside. Went to this liquor store and opened the door. A little bell rang and I went inside and there was a woman behind the counter who was on the phone, didn't want anything to do with me. She was actually upset that somebody was coming to the store, I think, because it's normally so quiet. She was just kind of like, who is this guy? And I was all happy and excited. And I said hi when I came in. She's like, oh, God, just leave me alone. I'm talking to whoever it is. And so I just started browsing. And they had the most amazing beer selection, man. They had even a ton of like American craft beers, like Sierra Nevada, like their whole collection. They had a lot of stuff in there. But they, of course, had many European imports that I can't get in Canada, that I've never seen in Canada. And so I saw this beer on the shelf. I'm like, oh my God, I have never seen this before. It's from a brewery that we've featured very heavily. This has never been available in Canada from what I've seen. And it is the Chimay Doré, or the Gold Cap.
Ooh, there you go, my friend. Yeah. Look at that.
Yes. Have you seen this one for sale in the States?
I think I might have seen it at a certain point as part of a variety pack, but I don't think I've seen it as a single. Okay. At least not that I can remember.
Sense. It's basically just like a blonde ale, but it's their lowest ABV beer that they have, and it's at 4.8% ABV. And this beer is super special. You know why?
Why, my friend?
Because this was originally exclusive for the monks. They only brewed it for themselves, and they didn't make it available for anybody. And so it says that it was available for the monks and for the staff at the monastery. So it'd be available for like the gardeners and things like that. They would feed them this beer to keep them going. And the monks would bring out, I'm assuming, beautiful glowing chalices of Chimay Gold to feed the gardeners. And so they eventually decided, so this recipe has been getting brewed there for a long time, but it wasn't available for public consumption until, they don't even say, I couldn't find information on when, but it just said as of recently compared to the rest of their lineup. I'm excited to try it.
Oh, I'm
very
excited to hear, my friend. And you know what? I just had a beer realization here as you were speaking.
What is it?
So see, this is not the first time that I hear about those monastery keeping those beers. Some of their beers like only for their staff, right?
Right.
I wonder if there's a connection between them doing that and all those raids and like have been because they were keeping the beers for themselves. So I think I've solved the beer mystery right there. So the people would got pissed, would destroy them multiple times.
I think you just connected very important beer dots, my friend. I think that's what just happened right now. People would get word that they're hoarding delicious beer that they're not selling and make it available outside the monastery walls. This makes perfect sense. If you're keeping secret beer that you're not giving to anybody else, you're inviting raids and pillaging.
That's exactly what's
violent
happening.
Pillaging.
And that's why they get destroyed multiple times, my friend. That's exactly why.
It's so true, man. That's genius. I think you just formed a very. If there's an academic discipline for beer theory and legend, I think this would be the perfect thesis to explore right now. This would be your graduating thesis, your master's degree thesis, I think. This conclusion you just came to.
I absolutely agree. I think that's a good way to put it, my friend.
Yeah, I think so. All right, we need a beer for this conversation. Let's crack these open. Let's get started.
We definitely do.
Ooh. It smells like really bubblegummy out of the bottle.
Really? So that very nice.
Yeah, that's
yeast.
interesting. But this actually smells like really sort of like bright pink bubblegum, like double bubble.
That's interesting. Yeah, for what I remember reading, it usually is associated with the yeast characteristics, and the banana/bubblegum is one of the sides, while the other, depending on the strain of the yeast, can be more towards the clove.
Look at this beautiful head, man. I know it's a Chimay beer, so it's kind of expected, but wow. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, man. Cheers to you.
Let's go on for a sip.
Oh.
2 for 2.
Oh. See, I had forgotten I can...
Oh, that is good.
Whew. Oh, I'm so glad I'm having this again here.
Yeah, I'm so jealous. I want to try that beer so badly. But it's just an English classic.
It has all the characteristics of a very good English bitter classic ale, but it adds this level of roastiness and deep dark fruits that is starting to leaning more towards the porter territory, but without getting there. So it's really just this very blurry middle ground in between. Still being very light and enjoyable, sessionable, but very mysterious, very dark in a way. It lures you in. Like you take a sip and you don't really quite know what's happening because
I think Simon described it as mysterious, right?
Yeah. I stick with that. I stick with that term because it's very fitting. It just like lures you in, and it's not quite there to be a porter, but it has enough of the ale characteristics to be refreshing. So it's this weird combination that is extremely, extremely peculiar.
Oh my God, I want to try that so bad. Do you have any more of those?
I have some, my friend. I've been saving them.
Save them.
I've been saving them.
Request one when I come down next week.
I have been saving them, and for good reasons. Like because you'll be coming down soon, so there will be chances.
You know, it's really cool. I love these bottle conditioned beers that Chimay offers because, like, you know, that little bit of yeast at the end. I swirled it around, poured it into the glass, and I wish I could show you. I can't obviously make the glass horizontal to show you.
Yeah.
But there's like a dark brown circle in the middle of the head from where I poured the yeast into. That's just staying there.
That's when you know it's good.
I've always appreciated Chimay beers. Mm-hmm. Their blue, the Chimay Grand Reserve, I think is my favorite. Mm-hmm. I love the blue. The green that we reviewed I appreciate it, but we both felt the same way about it. It just wasn't up our alley. A little bit too.
Yeah, it was
a little bit too funky for us. But this beer is absolutely fantastic. It's hard to describe because for a Chimay beer, it's relatively subtle. It has the same clean finish that all Chimay beers have. You know, that Chimay yeast.
Yeah.
At Father Theodore. Good old Father Theodore. That he procured and patented. And, you know, the well water from the Chimay, from the Abbey, the Scourmont Abbey, where they brew this, very strong, sharp carbonation. And so the mouth feels very sort of dry and quick and sharp, just like all their beers. It's fantastic. The taste is like very hard to describe because I get those aromatics, like there's a really strong, like bubblegummy aroma, but in a very good way. In a very, very good way. It's almost like bubblegum mixed with like a nice deep breadiness. So it combines to form like a bubblegum sandwich that just like works in beer form. So every time I stick my nose in the glass to go take a sip, the aroma is probably the best part about this beer. It's still just so strong. And then you take a sip and it's so subtle, malty, nice, fresh hops. The finish is very subtle. There's not much there. This is a very drinkable beer. Very clean finish. God, it's so just refreshing, thirst quenching, but also just flavorful enough that it makes you want to go back in for another sip, but subtle enough that it could be considered like an Abbey version of like a light beer.
That's like, nice.
This is amazing. I'm really enjoying this.
You know, my friend, while you were discussing the characteristics, like it made me think a little bit of like the Extra 4 that we talked about from Saint Bernard as being their single style, like if you want to call it that.
When it comes to doubles and quads, right, they don't really advertise that too much. They don't use that terminology very much on their site and on the bottles. Like that's not really labeled as such, but yeah, I would agree, man. I think you hit the nail on the head that this would be their single, more and just like the Extra 4.
Yeah, and mostly probably just for the fact that the way you described it being extremely drinkable, and still being packed with flavor, something that is very difficult to achieve.
I think I might even like this better than the St. Bernardus Extra 4. That's one beer we've talked about it on the channel. We've never featured it on the channel. But that's a fantastic beer. If you ever see it in the shops, I got it recently in a mix pack, a St. Bernardus mix pack. But if you live in a place where you can find it, it's an extremely delicious, drinkable beer. It's a lot more bitter than this one. The Extra 4 is very strong on the hops, which is nice. This one is a little bit more malty estery, which I'm just personally enjoying a little bit more. Saying I enjoy one amazing beer over another amazing beer. It's like nitpicking here. But this is fantastic. Wow, what a way to close out my brackets here, man.
Just to close with the beer, let's say beer analysis here. Why is it called Old Peculier? Which I thought was interesting because there's a legend there, and I don't know if you know about this, my friend, but apparently
I do not. I was hoping you would mention.
Apparently, and this is also where the symbol that is on the can like comes from. Historically, it used to be part of the of the church. They say respond to the main church in Yorkshire. But at a certain point, like they decided, because it was too far away, to kind of make it their own, having their own ecclesiastical court. So the bishop there said, like, I don't want to go all the way over there. So they kind of like gave them specific special powers, the peculiar, as it's called in the, which it's this term that refers to that type of arrangement. And therefore, like, this has stuck like throughout the centuries. This is just like what I was able to gather, like in doing my beer research.
Man, I love Beer Legend.
They are nice.
Beer Legends. This is, I mean, we're coming up on our time here. Jeez, we went really long with this one, but I mean, we're excited. We hadn't filmed in a long time. We're happy to see each other. We had 4 amazing beers to share and talk to each other about and describe. So if you came along with us on the journey for this episode, thanks for joining us in the Beer Brackets Pub as always. Let us know down below if you've tried any of these beers. What do you think about them? Post in the comments down below.
No matter what, don't forget to close your beer brackets.
It's been a while since I've heard you say that, buddy. It's good to hear you say that again. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.